Well, welcome everybody. I am so excited today to have Rhonda Parmer on with me, and I can't wait for you guys to hear her story, her inspiration, and the amazing work that she's doing now. So, Rhonda, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure, Jenny. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here with you today and get to know you a little bit as well. But thank you. I start my intro out with what I used to do because it really did shape me. I have
Mhm.
31 years in public education, and that started as a substitute and then finished off the last 12 years as an associate superintendent. I retired a little bit early. One, I had a back injury. Two, they always say, you're going to know when you're ready to retire. And there was a
Mhm.
couple of days like I knew it was time to retire.
Yeah.
But really, what shaped me was what happened before I became, right as I became a principal. And that was a double cancer diagnosis. And so
Mm.
that changed the way I lived, number one, but also how I led. And it made me start thinking about, even after I get out of public education, what will I still be able to do to give back? And we can
Mhm.
talk about that a little bit as we go on, but that's me and how I got here.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it makes so much of a difference understanding where you come from, all of those lessons, everything that you learned working with the public. And I'm sure there were a lot of challenges doing that, but it has led you to become great at what you're doing now. So talk a little bit more about what it is that you do now.
Okay, so as after I retired and recovered from my back injury and then tried 3 months working with my husband, I love
Mm.
it. He's been an entrepreneur for 35 years and he's got an amazing small business in the trucking field, but we have different work ethics and different type beliefs about work. So it's
Hmm.
best that we are each other's advisor and not partner. And we both agree
Hmm.
with that. So
Yes.
so in 2020, I became certified executive coach through John Maxwell. I took the DISC certification training and the behavior analysis training consulting. And I did that a little bit for churches over the last 5 years. But when I retired, I had all this time. So I thought, well, I'm going to continue working. I'll go to all of these small districts that, they don't have resources. I worked in a very large district, relatively speaking, for Texas, 60,000 students. It had waned down a little bit over the last few years after
Hmm.
COVID, but still relatively large. Um, and I thought I'll be able to support all of these small districts and come in with some coaching and tools and resources. And girl, it was right in the middle of all this political stuff and financial
Mm.
stuff. I don't know about Colorado, but Texas is going through a shift in mindsets for financing at public
Hmm.
education. And do we really even need public education, or should it just all be private? And so there's all of that. And then Texas has been one of the leaders in state assessments and report cards for the
Hmm.
school. Are you going to an A school or an F school? Well, there was a big lawsuit from the schools to the state,
Oh, wow.
and so
Uh-huh.
it just froze spending. So I had four clients in education, and it just stalled out. So I just took out the word school leaders from my mission statement and just left it as leaders, and my
Hmm.
clients quadrupled in the next couple of
Oh,
years.
yes.
So
Yes.
really, right now, I work with leaders. They're mostly
Hmm.
executives who are trying to simplify systems, um, have good clarity in their communication, making their vision come to a reality, and get everybody rowing in the same direction. And we found, hey,
Yeah.
we can do that at schools where there's little children and outside parents involved. We can also do it in an organization or a nonprofit or even a corporate, work on a corporate
Hmm.
culture.
Yeah, that's amazing. Are there certain sizes of businesses that you prefer to work with, or are you kind of open to any size?
I know they always say, don't say you're open to any, you're not really, but I really am. But I'll tell you what I've been attracting. Mostly what I've been
Hmm.
attracting over the last 2 years is small businesses and
Hmm.
nonprofits or even
Hmm.
clergy, which I also kind of consider a very small business because they're working with volunteers and they have one
Yeah.
or two other staff. So it's
Hmm.
just been an interesting eclectic group of leaders. So I
Hmm.
have everywhere from a pastor to a museum curator, um, a, a loan officer, or he's the executive over
Uh-huh.
and so it's just a dress shop, someone who's just starting her own dress shop. She's done it in her home, but she's about to, make it official. So those are the kind of people I've been attracting.
Yeah.
And but I have a new session coming out in July that's just for men. And
Okay.
I'm going to find out if we can find some men who may struggle leading powerful women. I bet you
Mm.
there's a few out there.
I do love that because there's just this energy. There's a difference, and when you have that strong feminine energy and like you're very driven and excited and passionate about what you do, I understand how that can be challenging to lead coming from another perspective. So that will be very interesting. I'll be excited to see that as it rolls out. So when you are working with these different organizations, what is the biggest outcome that you're seeing after some time together?
Thank you for that question. So I told you I was a DISC certified and behavior management
Mm-hmm.
certified, and
Mm-hmm.
probably the biggest change is way more self-awareness.
Mm,
Um, a lot of times when we are working with successful executives, they have knowledge, they have skills, they're driven, they're, checking these things off. Let's get this, and this. And then they crumble when people don't listen to them, or,
mm,
this didn't come to fruition. I couldn't do it all myself. And there's a confidence issue. I say there's like a clarity and confidence are kind of,
mm-hmm.
they're kind of, interrelated. And
They
so
really are.
how
Yeah.
how are they communicating effectively to make it clear to everybody what really needs to be accomplished? And what we find is once these folks have taken their own behavior assessment, it's a
Uh-huh.
behavior and communication assessment, and
Mm-hmm.
then looked at and shared results of their teammates. And it's so interesting. Everybody's always kind of hesitant, like, do we have to share our results? No, absolutely not. This is for you. I get a report, but I don't even look at it. Girl, I don't have time to look at your report. So I mean, they all get it. And then we have it one. So the first session, I'm just telling them how we're going to do the assessment. Then the second one
Mm-hmm.
is we're going over what the assessment means. I tell them, bring your assessment, but all we're going over is what it means. And
Mm-hmm.
every single time we finally get to a comfort level where people start sharing. Oh, well, oh,
Yeah.
mine showed up more of this. And
Yeah.
then after people realize what it means, they're like, oh, really? No kidding. Exactly. That's exactly what it means. And it's so funny. But when they get to experience from a strengths base, who's on their
Yeah.
team, who's their asset, and what is their strength? What are they comfortable doing and talking about?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then that team is elevated. And so
Yeah.
the first part is self-awareness, and the second one is team strengths from an asset standpoint.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I think we're not necessarily taught how to lead people, right? So we kind of stumble into these positions, or we might get there over time, but there's so many dynamics to it. There's so much that goes into being able to lead people well and find those strengths and understand like this will be a great role for this person. This is how I can utilize them best. When I put them over here, they may not perform the way I want them to, and like being able to build that and work it together. So it's amazing that you're able to help them, unravel those pieces. So
It's
when
tough.
you
It goes along
go
with
ahead.
that quote. I cannot remember this guy's name, but his book is "What Got You Here Won't Get You There," and it's so
Yes, that's
true.
so funny. I just heard that again this week a couple of
You
times.
know, we
I
learn
love
our
that.
trade, and just think of, in public education or in banking or in the museum, whatever,
Hmm.
wherever you are, you've worked your way up. And hopefully we have a loyalty in our industry, our company, our organization, where people want to stay on and they want to advance. But think about
Hmm.
who's getting advanced. The ones who are really good at their role, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Yeah, and they're driven and
they have those characteristics. They're getting tapped on the
yes,
shoulder for that. But
yes,
yeah, the
absolutely.
training is seldom do big corporations do. They have, leadership development programs, and so
Yeah.
pathways for people to advance. But small organizations don't, and
Hmm.
even some small school districts don't, and a single bank generally wouldn't. So
Mm-mm.
that's where I can help fill that gap. And it's
Sorry.
how can we do some executive coaching? It's basically how do you see yourself and where do you see the strengths of your team, and how can we work
Mm-hmm.
together, make our vision a reality, row in the same direction. Now,
Yeah.
one of the tools I use to do that, I mentioned this to you when we spoke earlier in the week, but a book that I have coming out is
Mm-hmm.
Ease into Leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And the premise here, this is a handbook. It's a guide. It's not like a narrative. You can
Uh-huh.
flip through and go, to whichever topic you want. But our team has developed basically an implementation rubric for an ease framework for every leadership task you can imagine. Like we were just talking about,
Mm-hmm.
roles and responsibilities of your team.
Mm-hmm.
There's an ease framework that helps you through the thought process to
Oh,
be able
great.
to
Yeah.
create that product where everybody knows it's communicated clearly and it's strengths driven.
Yeah.
Not just
Yeah.
who wants to do this, you know.
Right. And I love that it sets up clear expectations as well, I think, which is probably a huge part of being able to lead people. I mean, we have that in every relationship, right? If the expectations are
Mhm.
not clear, it's hard to
Yeah.
meet them. And then we can get that resentment or other things can develop along the way. So I think that sounds really great, having a framework to lead you through each of these different pieces to make sure that you're all on that same page. That's awesome. So when you're working with people, are you primarily just working with the executives and the leaders, or do you ever work with the entire team together and bring them together?
I do work with the entire team. I do,
Mhm.
it's probably maybe about 50-50 right now.
Okay. Mhm.
And I didn't really think it was going to be that. I really thought I would just work with the leaders. But as it turns
Yeah.
out, sometimes the leaders are like, come on, man, I need you. Just come be the neutral voice. And I'll say,
Mm.
okay, I'll go be the neutral voice. And then I go talk to the team and they're like, will you make sure she knows blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of like you're back in the playground, like, okay, let me go tell them this and come tell you. But that's how it is. And I
Yeah.
call myself the trusted ally.
Mhm.
I'm the bridge between the two different dynamics. And how can we
Mhm.
get together where,
Right.
yes, we have the
Yeah.
leadership team, but we have this other team that is full of doers and flag
Mhm.
bearing, card carrying visionaries that are going to help with that vision. A person with
Mhm.
a vision can do nothing. You have to have your team. So
Yes.
I'm the
Yes.
one that is that bridge between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
So,
I love
and it's
that.
fun working with the team.
Mhm. I'm sure you
And
can witness so many different dynamics, and depending on how long they've been together, like how much has built up over time and do they have a lot of turnover, like all of these different things I'm sure you get to witness firsthand. That must
yeah,
be very interesting. I love that. I haven't
it's
dove
different.
into corporation work yet myself. I thought about it, but I'm like, right now I'm going to stick just with working with the individuals, the business owners, that kind of stuff mostly. But it really interests me because a lot of the things that I do can be set up for like a corporation like this. So I think this is really cool to hear how much you're able to turn things around and just get them running more smoothly from the work that you do. So that's very, very fun. I really love it. Do you see, is there a piece to all this that you're touching as well on mindset or like their or attitude or any of that stuff behind the work that you do?
Okay, now you're getting my goosebumps up because this is my whole premise and my whole message ever since I was a teacher. So in 1995, that's when we
Mm-hmm.
realized the brain had this neuroplasticity and you could
Yes.
change. You weren't just static at birth with these number of brain cells in this shape and that's it. That our
Yes.
experiences and our conversations and even our own self-talk changes,
Mm-hmm.
literally a chemical and a structural change at different
Mm-hmm.
levels by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you even go all the way back to the Bible, they didn't even know how to say it, but they said you need a daily renewing of your mind. And if you
Yes.
don't read the Bible, every other spiritual, group
Yes.
talks about spiritual cleansing and getting on a higher plane and separating from the physical. And all of
Yes.
it's all interrelated, and I just love it. Literally, I'm sitting here getting goosebumps, and I
Oh, you're
I
giving me goosebumps. I love the connections. It's so, I mean, this is
contain
where
myself.
we align.
I'm
Yes.
such a brain nerd. I mean, I love it. And people, when I start into that, they're like, come on, man, can you just show us how to, show us how to move forward? But it's so true. And so I talk a lot about mindfulness and um, again, that self-awareness. So let's stop it. If you even just think of the simple anxiety that, I don't mean clinical anxiety. I just mean when we're going through life and, oh,
Yep.
I got some anxiety, or I'm in traffic, or I don't know what to
Yep.
cook tonight, or whatever it is, all of these things. The simplest way to get rid of it is to get back to right now. What can I
Yes.
see? What can I hear? What can I feel? What can I smell? And just clear all of that out of my mind. Those those are spiraling thoughts that are detrimental. And if you can, as
Yes.
much as you can, get right back in the moment, in the present, and then you
Mm-hmm.
start thinking a little bit more clearly. But we are
Yeah.
all hardwired. I mean, especially
Yes.
the way we've evolved through society. We're
Yes.
hardwired to get this done and do that and do that and do all this stuff. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's just
I
crazy.
know. It really is. And I love that way of bringing it back and just, calming your physical body. And like you said, understanding that you are a spirit residing in a physical body. You are not the physical body. So your mind has control over that body. So if you start to feel that, you start to get emotionally involved in those wrong thoughts, right? But to come it back, and I like that example. I haven't used that before where you can touch what can I see, what can I feel, and just like bring you back to that calmness of mind. So
Mhm.
that is really awesome. And also just changing that perspective, right? And detaching from the outcome. The other thing I love doing is finding something to be grateful for in the
Oh,
situation, which
absolutely.
it's easier said than done sometimes. I know we can get really involved in whatever's going on, like traffic, if we're just really angry about it, and like speaking into existence what you would desire to happen, right? So if you're sitting there and you're getting all of the red lights, like I've started doing this even with my kids, so now they're in the back seat going like, Verde, Verde, like just speaking up. We're
Love
gonna get
it.
all green lights. We're gonna get there on time. It's gonna be great. And we're just like, it just changes
Oh, it does.
everything about
Yeah.
the situation. So, oh, I
It
just love
really
that.
does. I love that you're teaching your children that so soon. I mean, I feel like my mom and dad did teach it by modeling,
Yeah.
but not explicitly. It's great that it's taught
Yeah.
explicitly. But still to this day, my mom is 80 years old. And when we go places all the way there, we're going to get a great parking spot. We're going to get a great parking spot. This one's going to be
Oh
open
my
up there.
gosh.
I mean, she has a handicap tag. We could always get a parking
Oh,
spot here, but sometimes they're all filled too, depending on where I'm taking
yeah.
her. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so it's a way of life that is so
Yes.
calming. Have you read or heard any pieces of the Mel Robbins Let Them?
I have not read them. I'm familiar with her. I've followed a little bit of her work, but I will definitely add that to my list of I have many books that I
Me too,
but
girl. And it's
I
like a
love it.
10-hour listen, but you only need to listen to the first chapter. I mean,
Okay.
you'll she gives a lot more strategies, but you're probably teaching those strategies
Let
already.
them.
Okay.
I
But
love
the
it.
let them theory, I'm gonna just quickly summarize. She has two daughters and a son. And the two daughters, she said, man, we went for 8 weeks planning for prom. What are we going to do? We got to do all these appointments and
Mm.
reservations and dress and blah, blah. And then now they've already graduated. Now her younger son is a senior or whenever she wrote the book. And he's like, I'm not going to prom. Okay. Well, then 2 days before prom, he's going to prom. And so she's like, and finally the daughter, seeing Mel, her mother, panic and stress and anxiety and trying to control everything, finally just said, it's his prom. Let him do what he wants. You don't have to do it.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
And
Yes.
Mel Robbins said it was just like, whoa, I can apply that to so many things, and then I don't have to try
So
to be
many.
all stressed out about it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. That relinquishing control
Yep.
over every situation, which is something I've had to work hard on for myself and especially in my business. Um,
Me too.
because I want everything to go how I want it, right? And kids are a great lesson in this as well. I think I mentioned when we talked before that we also homeschool. So, like trying to build a business while homeschooling and all of the other factors that go into that. And it's like, okay, I write a schedule, right? And I write like it to the minute. It's not always going to look
Yeah.
exactly how I write it. And we have to be able to have that flow, right? So, like, we plan and we set things and we take action, but also to allow. And I love that. And so do you incorporate that idea of let them with your leaders and their team? Like, how do you put
Yes.
that together?
Okay, so it's interesting because then I love that, and I haven't read the whole book. I probably need to,
Mm-hmm.
but or listen to the whole book. But she says, "Let them," and then the second part is, "And then let me." So if you just stop at
Mm,
"let them," then you're just blowing everything off, and you're out of control, and you're lonely, and nobody talks to you anymore because you're just like, let them. So the other part is "let me." So um, instead of before you even say let them, you used to say but why, or I need to do this, or I need to do this. So stop all of that and go with let them, then get into the let
yeah.
me. Which
Yeah.
piece of let me is needed in this particular context? If it's getting ready for your son's prom, give him $40, tell him have a good time. If it's
Right.
getting your team ready for a major event, you have to be involved a little bit more. But the
Yes.
whole premise is control what you can control, and
Mm-hmm.
and not give them so much rope they hang themselves, but train them. I say do a lot of preventive, train them so they know the
Yeah.
expectations, they know the time frame, put systems in place. Going back to my ease framework, it's very simple. It's engage, and that could
Uh-huh.
be engage with people, what people need to be involved, or it can be engage with thoughts. What do we need to think about, and what are systems or whatever? Engage,
Mm-hmm.
align, simplify, and empower. And so empower is giving enough information so people can do things on
Yes.
their own. So you're freed up to do only what you are paid to do. So
Yeah.
as a leader of the bank, as the CEO of the bank, you may be filling in for a teller, or you may be modeling customer service for a teller. But if you're a
Mm-hmm.
teller every day, then our CEO level work is not getting done. And
Right.
so, is that a confidence issue with your team? Have you not provided enough training? Do you not have a
Mm-hmm.
system in place for mid-level training, or
Mm-hmm.
what systems are missing that are causing too much stress or overwhelm or burnout or
Mm-hmm.
anxiety? And those kinds of things come up, especially after we do that initial assessment. You find
Yeah.
out which path you need to go immediately. And my main two premises are figure out the strengths of your team so you can all
Mm-hmm.
get rowing in the same direction and you bring your vision to reality. And the second one is simplify everything
Yeah.
as much as you can. I tell this joke, and I may not have been modeling it since we've been together, but I say, pay yourself $100 for every word you can take out of your explanations. Make it clear,
Uh,
you know.
oh, I like that. Yes. I know I've heard somebody say it like the so what's, like the things that you've injected that you didn't need. Like you
Yeah.
tell this whole long story and there's all these parts that are like, so what? Like why was this relevant? Why did you need to add that? So like
Yes.
I
I got to
love
really watch
that
it.
simplification. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think another thing as I'm listening to you talk is just the idea of trust in so many levels, like trusting yourself,
Mhm.
trusting the training that you are providing them, and then trusting your employees or your team members to carry out that training as
Yeah,
they've been
exactly.
instructed and
And
just
I put that trust back with the
uh-huh.
mindset. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
look, you've done all this work. You've already created the system. You've already provided the training. You already gave a calendar of dates, expectations.
Mm-hmm.
That change your put that trust as your mindset now. This is what I've provided them. This is how I've scaffolded for them to be successful. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
scaffolding for them to be successful because I don't want to rob them of their learning, because I'm not going to be here for the rest of my life. I have to get them ready
Right.
to be promoted for the next levels and get them
Yeah.
ready. Even if there's never promotion, they're still a great leader. And I don't, and I know you probably don't either. I don't say leaders are by position. Leaders are
Right.
by your actions. We
Yes.
we used to train our students to be leaders. So every
Mm-hmm.
single week, every single student had a different job in the class. So they were the leader of something. And that's just
Yeah.
learning how to act, interact, and notice other people. So many dynamics, but that mindset, it's really the overarching,
Yes.
I don't know, umbrella, I guess, for all of
Yes,
this.
because it affects every single thing that you do,
Yeah.
because everything you're doing is coming from that your subconscious mind, right?
Yeah.
So if we're not addressing that, then that's where all of the actions can go awry. But I love that. And like you said, the leading from example too. So even if you're not at the CEO position, you're at the teller position or whatever other one that is, like, one, I think realizing the importance of every single position, right? There's nothing that doesn't matter. Like they all need to be there in order for the entire organization to run. And then you don't have to say it. You can just lead by the way that you are performing your job, your duties and what you're doing and your attitude behind it and all of that. And then people will naturally gravitate toward that and follow it. So I love that example that you gave. Is there anything else that you want to really make sure that we touch on or talk about? You mentioned your new guidebook that's coming out soon. Is that the
Yes.
right word for it? Guidebook? Or how would you describe
Called a
that
field
again?
guide. Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Ease
field
into
guide. There we go.
leadership. It's for aspiring and new leaders. And it can also be for a new leader who maybe they've been a leader, but they're now going into a new organization. They don't know anybody. So how do you work with a new group of people to set up all these
Yeah.
systems? So yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
one. So ease into leadership is coming out soon. I do want to talk about that mindset one more time.
Yeah.
I'm just going
Oh,
to
yeah.
relate the
I could talk
story that
about it all
someone
day.
told me. This is so interesting. I heard this from um, it was a guy that was, I'll think of his name as I start telling the story, but he was basically
Mm-hmm.
talking about in Texas there was a prison that was for serious violent criminals, mentally
Okay.
challenged and violent criminals, and they could not keep a counselor on staff because of the violence. So people would
Mm-hmm.
just they'd come in and they wouldn't even make a month. They would just quit.
Mm.
Don't even pay me. I'll just leave. And they finally
Yeah.
got a hold of this guy who was unconventional. They didn't really understand how he did it or what he did, but they read some of the statistics about him having good success with violent people, not necessarily criminals. They invited
Okay.
him in. They told him the job. He said, I'll do it, but I will never meet one-on-one, face-to-face with any of those inmates. And they said,
Okay.
well, you're all we got, so just go for it. So it was all his mindset. He came in, he had his office, he had the folders, the case studies of each of the inmates. He would
Uh-huh.
read their information. And this is how deep he was into this mindset and how everything we think, whether it's even communicated out loud or not, it's going
Yes,
out into the
it
universe by the
is.
way we act and say what we say and think and do. And so all of those things.
Yes.
But his thoughts were, if all of these inmates have these kinds of problems, it could be something that I'm doing. And so
Mm.
he would read their case studies, and while doing it, he would just say these four things: I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, over and over and over
Ooh, that's interesting.
through that person, through their file. And over
Mm-hmm.
the next 2 years, when he stayed there, he never met with one inmate, but they were rehabilitated more and more and more until they finally closed that place down. Now, I need to find a little
I
more,
love that. I love
but
that.
we're all connected
Yes,
spiritually. And
we
that's
are.
why,
Yes.
if you're angry with someone, definitely try to control yourself so you don't say something to them,
Right.
but try not to even think it. Now, that doesn't mean be Pollyanna and put yourself behind a wall. You have to address things, and there are ways to do that,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
don't try to degrade people or cut them down or, I don't know. It was just judge them in a way that separates them. I mean, we have to identify, people. I always say there's a fine line
Right.
between judging and identifying. But anyway, that was just an
Yes.
interesting thing. And his point, the guy who was telling the story about this, because he interviewed that guy, he said, when he told me that, I just thought, wow, what have I, because you talked about on the subconscious level,
Yes.
what have I not forgiven myself about that could be
Oh.
manifesting in some other way? And he said he
Yes.
just he just spoke those sentences into his phone as a little recording, and he would just play it to himself for 5 or 10 minutes a day.
Yes.
And he could see it. That's how that story, when he interviewed that guy about how change happened, is what changed him from
Yes.
struggling to successful and able to communicate and get with other people. I'll think of his name later. I'll email it to you.
Oh, that's okay. I love it. And there's so many things. Oh gosh, okay. We could talk about this forever, so I won't go too much, but you got me
Yeah,
really excited because
I do
and
want to
and
talk
here's
about
the
this
thing.
real fast.
Oh,
Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Well, I
go
just
ahead.
want to elaborate on that
Oh,
because
good.
I just
Oh,
loved
yeah.
it so much. So, yes, because our thoughts are the most potent form of energy that there is. Which is
That's
just
super.
why this is exactly why that happened, right? And when we have a negative thought towards somebody else, it's the same as having a negative thought towards ourselves. And those
Yes.
things that we're seeing about them that we may not be liking, we're they're reflecting pieces of ourselves. So if we don't like it and we get upset to stop and reflect, which can be hard, right? Because sometimes we don't want to accept that level of responsibility, but it's also freeing and empowering to think that you can change the way that people are adjusting you and then this changes your reality and so I just love that
Love it.
story. That was so great. And you'll have to share what that is. And I'm
Yes. I
also
will.
reading, I highly, if you're not reading it, or haven't yet, but A Return to Love is a great book. But so when you mentioned that he says, I love you, I forgive you, like all of those things, I'm just like, oh, I love seeing how things connect like this. But that was awesome.
That's that energy. That's
Yes.
that everything is in love, and it's there's all those different forms of love. But if we could get people to accept that more freely,
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
free they are and how free different relationships become, it's just so healing.
Yes.
And it's hard to
Yeah.
explain sometimes, but
It
yeah.
is, but and it's because I love the way that she explains in the book. This is a synopsis of A Course in Miracles, if you've ever read that before, but just understanding how like God is love, and everything that is love, like love is all there is. Love is the only thing that's real. Everything else we've created. And
Mm.
she even goes as far as there they go as far as to explain that it's an illusion, right? Like this fear, this anger, this anxiety, those are illusions. They're not real. The only thing that's real is love. So the more you can tap into that feeling of love, and I'm like, wow, but it's been really, I don't know, always loving to learn more and more things. So
Oh, me too. I'll look into
isn't
that.
that
Thank
great?
you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were about to share some other books that you've written. I know you've done all kinds
So,
of.
yeah, so my husband and I write children's books. So these are the first two that's come out. This isn't in Spanish, but it's The Guardian of London and The Showdown on Peppermill Street. And these are books that they're just fun little children's books at surface
Hmm.
level. They're
Hmm.
based on my husband's childhood dog. I've been hearing about him my whole life. I never met Buster, but I feel like his spirit lives on. And so we're
Yes.
telling little snippets of Buster's story in all of these books, but they go deeper than that. So on our website, we have free resources for churches or for homes,
Mm.
a leadership lesson, resources for the kids, color sheets, and that kind of thing. But basically, in the back, there's a Bible verse and a leadership lesson. So even a leader of an organization or a small group or
Yes.
whatever, they don't have to read the book, obviously, to the but they could say, hey, if y'all are looking for a book for your grandchild or your child, here's a good
Yeah.
one. And the
Hmm.
synopsis is blah, blah. And here's the leadership lesson that we can take from it. And
Yes.
so the very back does have that leadership lesson and Bible verse reference. And we're proud of those. So they're right now we're
Yeah.
on
I
our
love
third
that.
one that's being published, but here's just, inside where you have the leadership. It's
Yes.
super
That's
easy.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know so well, having worked in the school system for so long, that, unless the teachers or somebody is specifically trying to work on these things, it's not a part of the general curriculum. So to have another way to build this into kids and just a great fun way to, model that with the dog is just awesome. I love that. That's a great, great idea. Perfect. So where can people find all of this information for you?
Okay, so everything that we offer is on our website, and that's easy, rhondaparmer.com. And if you
Okay.
remember, Parmer rhymes with farmer and starts with a P like Paul. So rhondaparmer.com. The name of our organization is Leadership Executive Group, but that, people mix that stuff up. So I just said we're going to use the name. And I'm
Okay.
also on LinkedIn at Rhonda Freeman Parmer and Instagram, the Rhonda Parmer. And we send messages out that way. But the free resources for the books and the leadership lessons and the different challenges that I have going on, if they
Hmm.
want to work with me I love doing retreats. So I'm
Oh,
just
fun.
falling into this. You know how you said speak it into existence? So I
Yes.
love retreats. I love working with organizations. So I've
Hmm.
started getting into this. working with chambers of commerce or Rotary groups. And so they give me
Okay.
their goals, and we just create a little retreat experience. So they get out of their area where they normally meet and
Mm-hmm.
work on their goals and learn, how to work and communicate together and how they're going to be represented in the world and their
Yeah.
legacy and all that kind of thing. But it's fun.
Oh, I love that. That sounds like a lot of fun. Um, all right, well, perfect. I'm so glad this was a wonderful conversation. I love how many synchronicities we have and
Oh,
different things as far as our interests and the way that we work with people. So that it's been a lot of fun. And all of this information will be, down in the notes. So you can connect with Rhonda. So thank you so much, Rhonda.
thank you. And God bless you and all the listeners. Keep up the good work with everything you're doing on. The things and works that you're doing that I saw on LinkedIn is what attracted me to you. So keep up the good work.
I love it. Thank you so much.